Welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. I am your host, James Just. With me today is author John Cameron. John, Harvard is in hysterics over, I don't know, whether it's, how am I going to put this? How do I want to phrase this one? They're in hysterics over if their president is engaging in unethical behavior. We'll say that. They're not even, she's not even getting, they're not even all upset about her disastrous appearance in front of the Congress. No, they're all upset because she allegedly, what did she, used someone's, what did he try to say? I'm trying to figure out how CNN tried to say it. She used somebody's phrasing without acknowledgement. Yeah, CNN tried to say it's not theft. She didn't steal anybody's ideas. She just used them without accrediting them.
That's theft.
That's theft. That's called plagiarism in an academic setting. Yeah, outside of academic setting, no one cares.
Use my stuff, you know.
Yeah.
If they're my words that I took the effort, I put effort into building, and you use it without at least giving me recognition, it's theft.
Yes.
But they call it plagiarism. But what's crazy is now, because of all the radical libertarian things that I read and look at, they're finding just that she plagiarized stuff in her doctoral thesis, that she plagiarized all over the place, and they are talking about her disastrous showing in front of Congress. But see, I'm going to kind of defend her on that because I think I'm a strong proponent of absolute First Amendment freedom, and I don't think somebody can espouse the idea. They could say that all Arabs should be killed or all Jews should be killed. That's your opinion. Now, it's when you start, it's a bad opinion, and I disagree with it, and I think you're crazy for having either one of those, right? But when it's my opinion that when you start acting toward, remember, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And so she refused to throw down on some things that some student organizations said. She refused to condemn it because it depended upon the circumstance, right, and all the rest of that.
I would have no problems on, except she doesn't apply that same standard to others.
No, not to her. And there's some organizations that get a free ride. For some reason, people that report that support an organization that chopped the heads off babies and continues to rape women, they support those, but they don't support people who were basically wiped out in World War II almost because they were better than everybody else at making money and dragging themselves up by the bootstraps, and they used them as a scapegoat. But the back to plagiarism thing, I went a little far. I apologize, I do that. I thought that leaders should be held to higher standards than people. If she had a student that plagiarized a paper, they would get a bad grade on the paper.
At least.
And they'd probably get thrown out of class. Like Biden was almost thrown out of law school for plagiarizing somebody's paper. And that's the reason the news found out about it in the 80s. And that's the reason he became a laughingstock. And Dukakis, I think, was the one that pointed it out, somebody back then, or really made hay with it during the elections, and he wasn't elected president over it because he basically lied and stole stuff from people. And so why is this person still tenured professor? The idea of tenure. I understand why they put it there. They don't want the next political regime coming in and throwing out all the professors that disagreed. But the idea that you can't fire these people when they are shown to be guilty of something that would cause a student to be dismissed from the university, that's to me ludicrous. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, no, it's the opinions. She was inartful in front of the Congress, right? And it was a laughable moment, right? It was kind of
anybody who's running an organization that big shouldn't be that stupid.
Yeah, it was a laughable moment. But yeah, this whole plagiarism thing, and then how people defended it, right? Initially, they started to defend her plagiarism because of who brought it forward, right? So Mark Ruffalo or whoever this guy is, who was bringing the attacks forward.
Mark Ruffalo's an actor.
Who is it? Ruffalo? Was it Mark? There was somebody.
I don't remember his name.
I don't remember.
Sorry, I didn't mean to correct you.
There's some Ruffalo, I think it is.
He's an actor I like. I want him to get credit for
so maybe it's not maybe it's not Mark. Maybe it's a Ruffalo guy. Some guy who's some right-wing pundit, shall we say. Some right-wing pundit.
So if a right-wing pundit brings it forward,
then you can ignore it. But
they
if
ignore it.
yes, but if somebody else brings it, so anyway, it's the hypocrisy of these people that really, again, we talk about hypocrisy so much, but it's so damaging to a culture and a country. And
We talked about trust. We will talk about trust
next week.
next week. And one of the reasons that people are so distrustful of leadership in politics, in unions, in press, in universities and everything, is because they just flat out lie. They lie about stuff and nothing happens to them, and they expect the public to be so stupid they don't recognize that they lie. So if you're stupid enough to repeatedly lie or steal, plagiarism, and you're upset about consequences from it, you shouldn't be in the position anyway. So, yeah.
And the question is, how do we get this way, right? There's an opinion article, I forget where it was actually from, but there's making an argument that American college campuses are becoming like an animal farm, right? Where, some pigs all animals are created equal, but the pigs are more equal than everybody else.
Some animals are more equal than others.
But some are more equal than others.
Yeah.
And so if you're part of that leadership elite, shall we say, the self-proclaimed leadership elite, or the thought, if you have the correct mindset, the correct perspective on the world, you have a vastly different experience than if you're someone who has, say, a wrong think. If you have wrong think, or if you are, say, of the undesired classes, right? You get treated vastly differently than you do if you are part of the elite class. And how did this happen, right? Our universities were supposed to be the bastion of where people from vastly different places come together and you learn to work together. You learn how to share and learn from different perspectives. You learn that, maybe my perspective isn't as complete as I thought it was. And you learn that at universities. Well, that's what you're supposed to learn. But instead, they're going to university and they're learning a singular perspective on the world, on how to interpret events. How did we allow this to happen?
Good question. And it's been happening for a long time. And I talked to a guy who's a liberal. Well, he's not a liberal. He's illiberal. He calls himself a liberal, but he's basically a socialist. He says he's a socialist. He's a rich socialist. Most of the people I know who favor socialism are either rich or poor. And poor people who favor it have never seen it. And they've been told by rich people who favor it, who'd never do it, that it's a good thing. And they think that all the stuff that the news tells them about capitalism being evil. But anyway, he does that groupthink thing, and if you get your information from only one source and you don't look for any other sources, shame on you for being an idiot. I mean, I believe very strongly in some things, but I'm inundated by the side that wants to convince me to think their way. I have to go looking for the things that teach me about freedom. And so he said to me, I remember what he said, because I talked to him about the lefties in universities and the lefties in the press and the lefties in the courts and all the rest of that. He said, you guys are interested in making money. So, if you want that to change, you need to go into these fields. And I thought, So part of the grand plan,
Yeah.
Part of the grand plan.
But aren't you supposed to, what is it, the lefty thing is, you're supposed to make these things inviting for people who don't participate. So if the universities...
Which lefties are you talking to?
So if the universities are an uninviting place for people who are of right-wing perspectives, then shouldn't they actually work and create programs and whatnot to encourage more right-wing people to attend college and to work in these fields?
Encourage them to go somewhere and die is what they want to do. I mean, they're completely unconcerned, because they're absolutely convinced that their plank is the correct one, their thought process is the correct one, and anybody who thinks in a different way is insane or stupid. And they need to be challenged and it needs to be changed. And I think they're going to get their comeuppance. I think this whole DEI thing is going to be out of the window in just thrown out the door in a couple of years here.
Well, I think DEI is going to die from its own morality. Because diversity, inclusion, right? What is it? Diversity, inclusion, and I forget what it is. Anyway, diversity, inclusion, and whatever it is.
Oh, equity and
equity,
inclusion.
diversity, equity, inclusion.
inclusion.
Yeah. So, but if you're excluding groups of people because of how they think, because of the perspective they has, then you are
Then you're
failing.
not inclusive.
Then you're not inclusive. You're not diverse.
And you're excluding.
And you're excluding. So you're actually, so the very nature of what they're trying to do, of how they are trying to accomplish it, is contradictory to their stated goals. And anytime you do that, you will always eventually die. Your movement will always.
Here's the little, and I don't know who to ascribe this quote to. It's a great quote. People who are free are never equal, and people who are equal are never free.
Yeah, I've heard that one, and I don't remember where it comes from. But you know, there's someone else who has things that we can quotable, is Mr. Richard Fields. And Richard has,
The old guy with the beard?
Yeah, the old guy with the beard who shows up on the TV every now and again.
Yeah, watch him.
We've got another one of those. We'll see what Richard has to say this week.
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him. Yeah.
And so here's Richard.
Old guy with the beard.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
I think he actually
Hello, this is
watches
Richard
the show.
Fields with Reports from the Fields. Let's look back at last year. 2023 was the year that ended up with a shortage of conspiracy theories. When the COVID pandemic started back in 2019 in Wuhan, China, intelligent observers speculated that it came from a lab leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The World Health Organization and multiple U.S. federal agencies insisted that it came from infected bats at a wet market. That view was amplified by the government mouthpieces, the New York Times and the Washington Post. The rest of the mainstream media fell into line and condemned those pointing to the probability of a lab leak as conspiracy theorists. Early in 2023, both the Department of Energy and the FBI conceded that a lab leak was the most probable cause. In 2020, Dr. Anthony Fauci, in sworn testimony in the Senate, told Senator Rand Paul that no U.S. money was spent funding the Wuhan lab. In 2021, the National Institutes of Health acknowledged that they had channeled money through a nonprofit called EcoHealth Alliances to the Wuhan laboratory, something long claimed by conspiracy theorists. Another conspiracy theory bites the dust. President Trump was initially very skeptical about the dangers of COVID, but at some point his advisors convinced him that it was a highly dangerous threat, and that it could be, he could be a hero and easily win re-election if he shut down the country's economy, made everyone wear masks, required social distancing, stopped foreign travel, and fast-tracked a miracle cure-all vaccine. Conspiracy theorists said those actions will kill his chances of re-election. Score one more for the conspiracy theorists. Pfizer and Moderna claimed that their new vaccines had a 95% effectiveness rate and that they were proven safe. They did, however, demand to be protected from any and all liability suits if their claims turned out to be wrong. Seems they agreed with the conspiracy theorists on that point. The vaccines, really gene modification techniques, were nowhere near 95% effective, and anecdotal evidence suggests that they were probably not safe either. Conspiracy theorists said that a disease which has a 99% plus survivability and is subject to natural immunity for reinfection by those who get it could be safely ignored by all those whose health was already compromised, the elderly and the already sick. Excess mortality figures for countries that locked down compared to those which didn't prove them right. To ameliorate the severe economic effects of the lockdowns, the Federal Reserve went on an unprecedented money printing spree. Conspiracy theorists predicted rip-roaring inflation. They were right once again. Conspiracy theorists predicted that Russia would lose its war against Ukraine and that U.S. sanctions would be ineffective and ultimately backfire. We're not quite there yet, but we're well on the way. Perhaps it's time for the conspiracy theorists to wear the smear proudly and tell the elitists who smear us to quit attempting to order us around based on faulty premises. I'm Richard Fields, and that's Report from the Fields. See you next week with our outlook for 2024.
Well done, Richard.
You know, John, he brought up the debt, the 33 trillion, and I read an article the other day, and actually it was PolitiFact. I was fact-checking an article, and in 5 years, we'll be paying more money on interest payments to the debt than we will for the Defense Department. In 5 short years, our interest payments for the debt, I'm going to say it again, our interest payments for the debt will cost more, just interest payments will cost more than it costs to defend our country.
Well, I think it's actually probably cost more, and I'm trying to figure out how it's not costing more now, because we spend less than $1 trillion on defense, right?
I know the CBO's numbers. It's in 5 years. Those numbers cross.
You know, let's make it even worse than that now and cut defense spending, and that's the wrong thing to call it. Fancy toys for overage boys. Just cut that in half. You won't notice any difference in outcome, you know, and then it'll be even worse. But yeah, the interest, compound interest is a killer, you know. I mean, compound interest, anybody who's ever had a little credit card debt they didn't handle right will notice that.
Yeah.
You know, they'll look at their monthly payment statement, you know, and they'll see on there, you know, I bought that, okay, we'll pay for that. And then they look down and say, what is this thing? Interest.
Yep.
You know, and at 20% interest or whatever, if interest rates don't go significantly down, and I think the CBO is counting on them going down actually for that to work. No, what all of this lunacy that we're seeing, or most of this lunacy that we're seeing, folks, is designed to distract us from the fact that we're kicking $33 trillion can down the road
and growing
yeah. And it's going to be 50 billion.
That can is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
You got to stomp on that can sometime.
Yeah.
I mean, they're now saying that we're going to start seeing cuts in Social Security by what, less than 10 years from now, I think.
Yeah, it'll be something,
and it'll be quicker than that, you know.
And while we're talking about monetary policy, down in Argentina, Javier Milei has said that Argentina will not join the BRICS bloc. You know, and just to remind people, the BRICS bloc is the Russia, China, India,
Brazil, Russia, India, China.
Yeah, and then there's a handful of smaller states that
and they were going to. Yeah.
Yeah, they're creating their own alternative to the dollar as the default currency.
Well, it'd be kind of hard for him to do it. I don't know why it's big news, because he wants to peg the Argentine. Is it a peso?
Yeah. Well, the big news was that the
dollar.
previous administration had said they were going to join BRICS,
yeah.
And now he said we get nothing out of it, so we're not going to.
Yeah. I mean, why would they? Especially if they want to use U.S. dollars as currency, they'd be cutting their throat.
Yeah.
You know, because BRICS, who knows what BRICS money is going to be worth?
Well, BRICS money is based mostly on the petrodollar. Remember, the West is having war against oil dollars, right?
Yeah.
War against oil. So so the petrodollar is going to you know, it's going to go to green dollar or whatever they're going to want to call it. But all these oil producing countries,
worthless dollar.
All these oil producing countries, you know, are trying to fight back by creating what the BRICS is doing.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point, is for those oil producing countries to kind of get out from under the thumb of the Western. And so I can see their point, but at the same time, you know, anytime you're getting in bed with Russia and China, how can you trust anything that's going to happen?
Well, you know, based upon how our government's doing lately, if you look at what CIA and FBI and all the rest of those are doing, I wouldn't trust them as far as I can throw them.
Yeah, well, $34 trillion in debt and printing money like crazy. How can you trust what we're doing either? It's kind of the same. Dozens of schools here in California, around our local area, are facing a federal probe of alleged civil rights violations, essentially because people are having opinions about this Hamas and Israeli war, and because they express it, the people on the other side complain, and so now we've got a bunch of civil rights probes.
Is it Title IX? No, it's Title what? Whatever it is.
Whatever
Not Title
it is.
IX. That's about equal
Title
access
VII,
for
or
women.
it was one of those things. But yes, the federal government are
Title,
facing
who
a probe
cares?
because people dare to have an opinion that's different than yours.
Yeah, I don't mind. It upsets me when somebody says I'm a socialist, and I say immediately, well, I'm a libertarian, and I don't like you, and here's why. What you're stating is that you want to take my money. I don't have I don't have enough money to let you take a bunch of it. So what I'm saying as a libertarian, I want to set you free. So you can see where there's a little difference there. But I don't care really what they say, because if it's a call to action, if it says, let's get together in the cafeteria tonight and plan to go kill some Jews, then I got a problem with it.
Right.
But if they're saying, I don't like Jews.
Yeah, even if they're saying things like, if you're Jewish, and people will say things like, from the river to the sea, that's an offensive thing, right? Because of the underlying meaning to that.
Which is elimination of the Jewish state.
Right, but you here in California, you have every right to say it.
Yeah, well, you should.
You should. As much as much as we may disagree with it, you have a right to say it.
Yeah.
And the same thing is, if a Jew wants to support, the emptying of Gaza, you have every right to say that. Yeah. Now, whether we agree with it or not it's again.
Well, what's crazy is I haven't heard a Jew say that. I haven't seen one, heard one, read one say that, although they're probably saying it. I've heard some Saudis say that though about the Hamas. I watched a Saudi journalist who's got a big voice in Saudi Arabia say, the Jews are my brothers. They have been here for as long as we have, and that is their land. And he started talking about Palestinians. He said, I would let a Jew sleep under my roof. I would not let one of the Hamas animals kill them all. And I'm thinking, I did not expect that to come out of a Saudis, maybe an Iranian, maybe a mullah, but at the same time, sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me. If it's a call to action, if you're saying, let's meet tonight to go kill some people, or I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to burn your house down, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But, saying you don't like people and you don't think they have a right to something or all the rest of that.
Arguing for a generic political policy is a vastly different thing than an actual.
But what I'm really confused about is how, I am not Jewish, folks. I'm pagan, the original, the first, the pagans. How in this country, especially with as much presence in business and media and entertainment and the arts and journalism that Jewish people have, because you can, and I'm not being racist here, I mean just look at the demographics, right? Go to Hollywood. How we can possibly have this pro-terrorist stuff that's being accepted in all these news media and promoted by it. I don't know how it's possible. I don't know how in this country that we are sons and daughters or grandsons and granddaughters of people who pulled up to concentration camps and are still emotionally scarred by what they saw, what was done to the Jewish people in Europe. How this happens in this country, I just don't get it.
Well,
I don't get it.
We talked about those college campuses becoming Orwell's Animal Farm. Yeah. And if you've got the culture today is, right, it's if you're the most oppressed person, you get elevated. So by their standards, the Jews are no longer oppressed. The Jews are now the oppressors. And so the oppressors can be treated however you like. And so that's kind of where that one goes. Let's talk about oppressors. Democrats are giving up on democracy, right? We talked about Colorado. We've talked about
that's old news, man. They gave up on it a long time ago.
Yes, for those of us here. And now they have the Maine Secretary of State has just declared that Trump can't be on the ballot. And we've also, I was just reading an article before this show came on, that one state, North Carolina, and one of those early states, has now decided that only Biden's going to be on the ballot. The state decided, but the party said, hey, we only want Biden on the ballot. And so the organization that decides these things says, well, because the party only wants Biden on the ballot, we're only going to have Biden on the ballot.
You mean, but not, you mean on the Democratic
On the Democrat
side?
primary, yeah, the primary ballot.
Huh.
So all those other Democrats who are running for office, we got Williamson, RFK, I think there's one more.
Isn't RFK running as an independent?
No, he's still running as a Democrat, kind of.
Ish.
Yeah, depending upon the state and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they're not letting, they're not letting any opposition on. Even Marianne Williamson, who has no hope of dethroning Joe Biden, right? There's no chance. Snow would have a better chance of surviving a trip through hell than she would have of actually winning an election. But yet, they're not going to let her on the ballot because they don't want her risk. What?
Diluting what? I mean, I'm not saying deluding, I'm saying diluting what? I mean...
Yeah, diluting the ballot of Democrats who are going to go vote. Are they actually that afraid that maybe she'll get 40% or something, and it's this big, huge red flag that there's a serious problem? But we already know there's a serious problem, right? We talk about it. Polling has shown that Democrats are in deep trouble in 2024 with Biden is running, whether it's against Trump or not.
They're in deep trouble. When you have members of Black Lives Matter saying, and leaders of big Black Lives Matter organizations saying, no, Democrats have had their way in cities and in our schools for 50 years, and it's obviously bad results. It's time for us to try a different party. I mean, their polls are showing that they're losing not a significant, but a significant enough part of the black vote, and they're losing a significant part of the young vote, which they counted on. I'm not a Trump fan, so it's not, I'm hoping they go vote for Trump. I wish that Milei could come up here and run two countries. I mean, he can do that.
There will be a libertarian on most of your ballots. You do have that option.
I would say, write one in. I still think, why can't we just say leave? Why can't a choice be leave position empty?
None of the above, leave it empty for me. Yeah.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, a rudderless ship might be safer than one that's being steered right onto the rocks.
Especially, hey, if we turn off the motor and it just sits there.
It just sits there.
It just sits there.
Yeah. Let the winds blow. Oh, that's free markets. Let the winds blow.
Let's just pass last year's budget a couple times. Don't increase anything, and you'll actually eventually we'll solve the cut. It looks like we are running out of time. John, I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for
thank everybody
inviting me.
inside for working so hard tonight. I want to thank the crew here at Access Sacramento for all the work they do getting us set up. And I want to thank you for watching. And please remember
Thank you, crew.
to love everybody. Good night, and have a great new year.